Welcome to the Author Your Life podcast, where you can write a new script for your life and become the hero of your story. I'm your host, David McRae. You are the author of your life. Let's get started.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Before we launch into the podcast, I'd like to tell you about my book, Author Your Life, Become the Hero of Your Story. This is a book for people who are at a crossroads in life and want to make a fresh start. Judging by the fact that you're listening to this podcast, I suspect that you may well be one of those people. This book is going to help you to change your narrative and rewrite the scripts in life that are holding you back. This book covers the latest science and research showing you how to become the person you want to be and live the life that you want to live. I'd like to invite you to get this book not only because I feel it's a great book that's going to help you, but also it's going to support the podcast as well. I love podcasts, but sometimes all of those ads that you get can be really irrelevant and annoying when you just want to listen to a good piece of training or a good interview. So I therefore made the decision with my podcasts that number one, I wanted my podcast to be free so that everyone could listen to it. And number two, that I wasn't going to fund it through all these annoying and irrelevant adverts and commercials. Therefore, if you want to support the podcast and support all the things that I put out there for free, whether it be here on the podcast, my YouTube channel, other areas on social media, then buying a book is going to enable and help that process. So this is what we call a win-win scenario. By buying the book, you help to support my work and all the free stuff that I put out there, and you also get a really transformational book that's going to help you make those changes that you really want in your life. So if you feel you're someone who's at that crossroads in life, you're looking for a new direction, you're looking for a fresh start, then make sure you get this book. Author Your Life, Become the Hero of Your Story is available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Whatever your preferred medium, it's there for you to go get right now. Hello, Story Changers, and welcome back to another episode of the Author Your Life podcast. In today's episode, we have something a little bit different for you. Now, you'll know from previous episodes and previous interviews that I like to mix things up, and I like to bring different people with different expertises and different backgrounds onto the podcast to mix things up, enriching your perspective and bringing home different learning points for you. And today is going to be another one of these slightly different things. Because today I am interviewing Erin Loman Jeck. Erin is a speaker and a speaker coach. For those of you who've been following some of my digital communication recently, you'll know that a new step that I'm taking in my business right now is that I'm starting to train people in public speaking. As you know, I've been an inspirational speaker for a number of years, and I knew from early on in this journey that I wanted to be able to give back these skills, to teach what I was learning to other people, because public speaking and learning how to speak on stage has been a hugely impactful thing for me. It's allowed me to find fresh passion, it's allowed me to find fresh purpose, it's allowed me to reach people and spread my message and make an impact on the lives of others. There's a real power in being able to learn how to speak. And this is what I'm going to be teaching people from now on. I'm going to be doing training and workshops, helping people to become the public speakers that they're capable of being. And so this episode actually ties in quite nicely with this new direction that I'm taking in my work, because today we're going to be talking about public speaking. We've got the very experienced Erin who's going to be sharing her knowledge and wisdom with us, so that we're going to be picking up some public speaking specific stuff. But as always, this is the Author Your Life podcast. This is looking at finding fresh inspiration to make the changes we desire in our lives. So this isn't going to be just a public speaking focused episode. There's going to be a lot of transferable stuff and a lot of transferable lessons. And I'd actually say the majority of this interview is very classic, quintessential Author Your Life stuff, with just a little bit of public speaking nuance thrown in there from time to time in our interview. So bearing all this in mind, who is Erin? Erin Loman Jeck is the CEO of the Transformational Speakers Agency, an executive speaking coach, a TEDx speaker coach, and the creator of the Transformational Speakers Summit. Erin is a highly sought after business coach who transitioned to opening her own speakers agency, and she's the leading authority on assisting thriving, purpose-driven entrepreneurs in how to monetize their message, make an impact, influence change, and inspire action in others. Erin's approach to speaking is unique and powerful. She utilizes the psychology of connection to illustrate how you can unlock any audience's trust and rapport, which leaves them feeling better about themselves and are challenged to adopt your new idea or perspective. Leaders seek her out to learn how to be more powerful in their influence, especially in the C-suite of organizations. In this episode, you are going to learn you can't help people if they don't want to be helped. The universe can't help you if you are unsure about your plan. Find a partner who understands and supports your needs. How to balance being driven for work and caring for family. You're going to learn all of this and so much more in this interview with Erin Loman Jeck. Erin, welcome to the Author Your Life podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have this conversation. We've just been rolling on your podcast and the conversation's been flowing well. So I'm looking forward to taking some of that energy onto Author Your Life. And I think we'll begin at the beginning. Can you tell us about your story and your journey to where you've got to today?
Yeah. So it was funny because it was what we were kind of talking about on mine, but it really was. I really wanted to be a dolphin trainer. I did not think a speaking coach was anywhere near what I would be doing in my life because I figured I'd be on docks playing with dolphins all day long. And when I got to doing it, they told me that I didn't need a marine biology degree, that I needed a psych degree or a teaching degree. And I thought, well, great, because I love people. And I've always been the person that everyone comes to with their problems. I knew that was probably the perfect place for me until I was in my master's program. And I was about 10 credits shy and in clinicals and just seeing the same people come in and complain and not change and not adopt new ideas, not try out the things that we came up as solutions to what they were experiencing. And I just was like, I can't do this every day. And I'm also an empath, so I feel people's stuff. And they would come in and dump all of their garbage and then walk out. And then I'm sitting in it, right? And I'm like, oh. And then a lot of times wouldn't even know, and I just take it on. And I just realized that there had to be something more I could do to really work with people who really wanted to shift and change. So I dropped out of my master's program. And I was like, well, Tony Robbins doesn't have a master's. that was my excuse. But I just started doing a lot of personal development, really realizing that there was a lot of people that I could coach that would come to me as a coach because they really did want to transform. And so I quit my work in social work. And I became my own business. And when I first got started, I was a life coach. I didn't know how do I define this? And then what I started realizing is some of my first clients were high-level C-level executives that ran big businesses. And I did really well with business. And so I started going, okay, well, I can help people in their business. So I really started to focus on helping people in their business. And of course, as you're becoming your own business owner, you start to learn everything. You're learning email marketing and marketing and sales, and you're learning how to do a lot of it. And so I knew I had a lot to share because I'd already gone through that. And so with that, I remember being really good at business coaching, going, okay, I planted my flag. This is what I'm here for. And it got painful. And when I say it gets painful, this is kind of the way that the universe tells me it's time to shift. Every person that I was working with was difficult. It was like, show me how to set up my PayPal. And I was like, I'm big vision. I'm like, let me help you get to the big stuff and do amazing things, not how do I set up my PayPal? You can Google that. And I was just like, why am I getting clients like this? And I was just kind of sitting with that. And then all of a sudden, all clients stopped flowing. No money coming in. I remember having $300 in my pocket, making the big risk of driving down to World's Greatest Speaking Training because I had a ticket, and not knowing what I was going to do. Like, okay, I'll bring all these bars and shakes and whatever, but I'm going to make it work. And I had a free place to stay there. I had a friend that had a family that lived there, and they were letting me stay with them. And then I had to figure out how to get back and forth. But the wife was like, oh, that's really next door to my office. You can just ride with me to work every morning. And I was like, perfect. So I remember driving, and I was in the middle of Oregon, and there's like nothing out there. And you heard the big booming voice say, get in your lane. And I literally looked around, and I was like, I am in my lane, and I'm concerned like there might be something going to come get me. No one is out there. And I yelled back at the big booming voice, I'm in my lane. And that's kind of how I roll. I do yell at the big booming voice sometimes, kind of out of defiance, I guess. But I had my life flash in front of me of like, no, this is the lane I created for you. And I look back, and I saw myself dancing at 2 years old on big stages and getting all these awards and trophies. And I did that up till I was like 15. And then I was looking at my first speaking engagement. It was my dad's funeral at 10. And I just started to see how everything lined up when looking backwards, that I was being primed for this. And I first thought, well, why speakers? And I remember hearing that, they get to make the biggest impact. So I wanted to change the world. That's been the biggest thing for me. I've always wanted to change the world. And I knew that I couldn't do it with just my voice and my message. So if I could help amazing people like you get your story out and affect the planet in that way, and I get John over here and Sally over here, and they're affecting the planet, we literally have a bigger ripple effect. And it's because of what I've learned. And so I literally take everything in speaking through the eyes of psychology, how to build that rapport, how to deeply connect, how to get people high on their own supply of neurochemicals. Like, it really, truly is everything I learned in psychology. I just didn't know that it would actually relate in what I was doing. And I remember picking up the phone as I was driving down there, and I was like, okay, this is scary, but picked up the phone and was like, hey, Sally, I'm no longer serving as just a business coach unless you want to be a speaker. I did that 3 times, and I was desperate for their money. And I was like, all right, then show it to me. And that morning I drove up to World's Greatest. I went to the bathroom before the event even started, and there was a woman in there, and her name badge said Grace. Well, my daughter's name is Sophia Grace. And I was like, oh, that's such a beautiful name. And we started having a conversation. And by the time we walked out, she goes, what is it that you do? And I said, I'm a speaking coach. The first time it came out of my mouth. And she goes, great, I need to hire you. And I was like, okay, I hear you. So it wasn't what I planned. It wasn't what I thought I was going to be doing. And truly, I am so blessed to have the ability to help people change the world based on their message, and really, build that big fabric of contribution in the world.
Mm-hmm. There was something that you said right at the beginning of your story that I'd like to pick apart. And the reason I like to pick it apart is this is something I really struggle with. And it was when you were in the clinic and you're talking about people coming in and they don't do anything, they don't implement anything, they don't change anything. They want to change, but they don't do anything about it. And this is something I struggle with so much that I'm sure maybe not so much now that you've kind of defined your brand and your work a little bit more, but maybe when you first started and you're running an event and there's someone in the audience and they're not taking it in, that they're not going to change anything, that they're going to go back to their same life on Monday morning, they got to keep on doing the same things they've always been doing. And it really frustrates me how I can't connect to that person or reach that person to give them the impetus to help them to make that change, to help them to take that personal responsibility for themselves. First of all, why do you think that some people do take on that responsibility and they do have that motivation to change, and other people don't? And secondly, if you've got an answer, what can you do to inspire that person to change?
Well, usually what I say is if that sometimes that person can't hear you. You might be speaking in your language in the communication. So I have talk about there's 4 quadrants in communication. There's the controller, who is all about task and all about the bottom line, and like the C-level executive, the CEO running everything, and it's a task list and it's all this. Then you have the analyst, who's also about tasks, and they're all about lists and building lists and getting more data and more research and more information. And they're only motivated when you take away the so you get the fear of missing out, right? You take away the opportunity. And the controller is really driven by, like I said, numbers, bottom line, how that affects, their accomplishments and their things that they really want. Then you have the 2 that are the promoter, which is more about people. It's about having fun. It's about being a part of something. It's about rallying the troops. And that's more of who I am. I do rock into a controller because it was a learned behavior that I saw my mother use. And so when I need to get things done, I'll shift over there. But really, truly, I'm more of the life of the party. Let's have fun. Let's communicate. Let's really get together. Let's have more people involved in this. And then you have the supporters. And the supporters are the ones who are the kumbaya, who love the world, who are the tree huggers, who are just like, they're all in it. But they're not motivated by getting things done. They probably don't have organization. There's so many other things. And so what I noticed is in big audiences, and normally it doesn't happen for me very often because we attract us. Okay. So most of the time, if it's my event, I'm attracting people that are like me. Mm-hmm. So they can sit in the controller and the promoter, either one of those, usually a lot of promoters, especially as motivational speakers, and people who really want to change the world. But I attract a lot of those. And so they hear me and we speak the same language and we have the same motivations and the drive. When I get to the opposite side, I have people that are so fixated on getting more research, getting more numbers, finding out if it fits on a spreadsheet, to figure out all these other things, or if it's going to hurt the planet or whatever, right? And so you have these other aspects. And if you're not speaking all languages and you don't have to do it all the time, but interjectedly doing that, you're going to lose some people. And usually, like I said, in my event, I don't have it, except there was one time. And it taught me a big lesson because I would say, does that sound salesy to anyone? Because it was teaching people the enrollment conversation and showing how easy it can be. And it doesn't have to feel that way. And he was like, I still feel like it's that way. And so I was like, all right, I know how to shift my language to be able for him to understand me. And I put it in a couple different ways. He goes, okay, now I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. And so I was like, all right, good. And then we moved forward. Well, what happened was he kept doing that the entire time and kind of took the attention away from me. And everyone else was rolling their eyes because they felt that he was challenging what I was saying. And my tribe is very loyal, like I am. And they were like, can we get him out of here? They're asking my husband to escort him out, like all this funny stuff. And it made me really realize there are some people that will be there that they'll get what they get out of it, but that's not your responsibility and it can't be on you. Like you could only do so much. So if you can switch up your languaging, that helps. And like I said, that one guy was he was brought by somebody else. So it wasn't like he was attracted to my message. He was attracted to what I did. He came because someone else said you should come to this because Erin's amazing. Mm-hmm. So hopefully in your marketing and what you're producing out there attracts you and attracts your tribe. But you will get into rooms where they're going to be like, do me.
Yeah.
And I've had people bring me in and I'm like, why are you having me speak to painters and construction workers? And none of them want to speak and none of them have a bit like, okay. And so I read them really well and I'm an experienced speaker. So I just jumped in and started asking questions, got to what their problems were, and I was able to solve it because it was more about business stuff. So I could do that. But you're going to have people. I have people to sign up who pay me in full and don't show up. And I want it more than they do. And sometimes that's the most painful place to be as a coach, because you so see the beautiful light inside of them. You see what they're capable of. You see that higher being of them, and they're not showing up that way. And it can get difficult in there. But what you have to remember is that you can only, help the people that are willing to be helped. But you also have to look at, and I challenge people, because I stand for people. I stand for their greatness. I stand for the people they're here to serve. So if like you and I were talking and you were like, like, David, you're doing a disservice to the planet, not living your life to the fullest and not doing your purpose. Like, that is doing a disservice to the planet. It's doing a disservice to you. And it's kind of giving the bird to your higher power, because they put you here on purpose for you to do this. And so what's getting in your way? And a lot of people just say it's the fear of being seen and heard, and being ridiculed, being, judged, all of those things. And it totally, truly is. And like you said, in the last one we were talking about was with Martin Luther King. But if you think about Jesus, Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, some of the major people who used their voice to change the world were crucified.
Yeah.
So inside of us all is this fear of being one of those. We've seen it. And so our brain wants to keep us safe. It puts us there and goes, well, I don't want to do that. But if you turn it and you actually look at, but still those people made a huge impact in our history. You look at people like Oprah, you look at people, that are really changing the planet. They're using their voice and they're doing it anyway. Right? In the face of fear that people are going to judge you and ridicule you and potentially crucify you. And so it has to be that pull for you to do that for the world, because if not, you won't do it. It can't be pushing somebody to do it.
Yeah. There was another thing that you mentioned in your story I'd like to pick apart, was where you're phoning your clients up and saying, I don't want your business anymore. Where did the courage or the insanity or whatever drove that? Where did you get the impetus to really put what you're really doing there is you're putting your flag in the stand and saying, this is who I'm going to be. Where did the drive and courage to do that come from?
So what I know about myself is this. I know I'm a magical manifester. Whatever I think about, I create, and pretty quickly. So what I've always known, though, is I'll say, here's what I intend. Here's what I want. Okay, universe, God, bring it to me. Here's what I want. And then I'll go, but I don't know if I trust that. Let me go over here, plan B, and work on it. You handle that, but I'm still working on it. So the universe is like, it's a mixed message. Like, what are you really doing? And I was half foot into business coaching and half foot into speaking coaching. And so the universe doesn't know what to bring you if you're in that confused state, because you're living out two different lives. And I knew that I had to burn the ships. I knew that I had to burn the ships and let that go. But what I did was I didn't let it go. I just brought it together, because now when I help people with their speaking, it's not just idea to ovation. It's about building the structure of your business around it and being able to sustain it. Because if you're not making multiple streams of income on your message, you won't make it. And so I teach people about writing books or getting courses or doing a podcast, or there's so many other ways you can get paid to do this, that you need to have those in order. Because like I said, so many of us with our messages, we think, oh, this is a gift to the world. I should just share it and I'll do it for free. But you can't be a lighthouse to the world if you're struggling to keep your own lights on.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Right? So if you're freaking out about, oh my gosh, well, I don't know where my next paycheck is, I don't know what the next thing is. If you're in that state, you can't be the big lighthouse to the world. And so I want people to not be in that by making them a good amount of money. And the reason is, too, is one of my other values is contribution. If we make people like you and me and all these amazing speakers and thought leaders really great money, charities, nonprofits, schools, wells, all of it gets built by people like us who have a huge heart for serving. And so if I can help speakers not only help them build that for themselves, but also build in that they're making substantial amount of money so that they can give back to the things that really light them up. And I think that that's a major piece of what I do.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about how you thought being a dolphin trainer was your true destiny in life, and obviously you're something a little bit different to a dolphin trainer now. A trainer, funnily enough, you got half of the equation. Dolphins, not so much. How else has your life turned out differently from how you thought it would?
I think there is so much more to be said. Like you were talking about some of the traumatic things that happened in our life. So when I was 10, my dad passed away, and when I was 15, my mom got malignant melanoma and was sentenced to a year to live. And in that year, what I saw my mom do was out of self-preservation, but she burned the ships too. She cut out anyone in our life that was saying, oh, I feel so sorry for you. Let me bring you a casserole, and let me, cause you're going to die. And oh my gosh. And all this, pity and they don't mean it. It's not from this negative place, but my mom was like, no, I had cancer. I do not have it now. And like, we really watched how we talked about things, how we showed up, how we did, experimental treatments, as like healing energy and like different things. Cause that was a little woo woo back then. It was still just coming out, but really burning anyone who didn't see her succeeding through it. And I think that's a big thing, even in what we do now and in my own business, is I don't allow those people in my space. I'm very coveted about who gets in my inner circle. And it's because I want the people who want me to succeed, who speak about me like I'm succeeding, who see the bigger parts of me. And when I watched her do that, I realized, man, it's what people say. It's the sum of the 5 people you hang around with, right? She was smart. She was already doing that. She didn't want the people that were saying she was going to die, because that wouldn't have served her. And so that instance, that, but also having both my parents almost die when I was at a young age, was that I really learned how life is short. And I am the person, like, when I get an idea, I take action. And I know that it always unfolds, and I just keep taking steps. And if I get to a place where I'm like, I'm not really happy about this, then I go, okay, do I need to go back a couple steps and figure out what that is? Or do I just need to pivot? And so I think that having those, you would say, traumatic instances in my childhood and my early years really showed me what was possible. And my mom cured incurable cancer. She did not die. She's still alive today. It's been 30 years now. And or no, a little less than that, but I saw that if you can do something like cure incurable cancer, I think there's nothing that's impossible. And so I don't see obstacles. I see detours instead. I'm like, ooh, what does that do? Where do I want to go around? How do I get around this hole in the ground? How do I get around it? Can I jump over it? Can I fly over it? It all becomes about solutions. But I really think that those things became so pivotal to me. It just completely changed who I was in the world. And so there was no way that I could play small, and that I wouldn't take every moment, and really cherish it. I would, so many people take every moment for granted and just keep going. And none of that was meant for me. And I know all of those things were meant to bring me where I am today. And that, I think, sometimes is, like I said, when your life flashes in front of your eyes, to look back and go, oh, wow, I haven't been prepared for this all along. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that until I had to look backwards. And I'm like, oh yeah, remember I did spelling bee. I was a model on stage. I did dance on stage. Like, you start to like, oh, I have been being born for this. I just didn't see it coming. Right. And so sometimes it's about taking that action and just keep moving, and the universe will adjust. So I realized, can't do plan B anymore, right? That just doesn't happen. So now there's only plan A. The universe knows where I'm going, where I'm headed. And as I'm taking steps, that it conspires in my favor. And then I decide what's the next step to take. So I think all of that really helped me really see the world in a different way than most people would ever see it.
You're in a role now, you've alluded to a little bit so far, where there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders and you're doing a lot of giving and a lot of serving. You've got to look after yourself in this process as well, and you've got to show up as the best version of you every day, and ultimately also live a life that you enjoy as well, rather than just filling everyone else's cups and having your cup empty. Erin, what do you do on a day-to-day basis or a regular basis that helps you show up as the best version of you?
Meditate.
Nice, yeah.
That it literally, being ADD brain, I need some quiet, calm down time. It just settles me in and gets me where I need to be. But also spending time with my kids. It is so important. And I know it's like CEO hat, mom hat, and I have to take one of those off at a time. But to truly be there for them and know that everything I'm doing is for them and with them, and helping achieve the goals of my children. My son is having his own podcast. It's launching this month.
Oh, nice.
And
How old
yeah,
is he?
and he is an entrepreneur, and all his money goes to charity. He is such a bright light in the world, and so whatever his goals are, I'm helping him fulfill. He was like, I want to meet Dan TDM, who's some YouTuber.
Yeah.
I got tickets, and we went and we sat second row at Dan TDM because that was a goal for him. And then he got to meet him and all of that. But I think some of those things fill me up that has nothing to do with just being in my work, right? So those things fill me up. I have a husband who's a massage therapist, so that helps. That's a little self-care. But truly, it's hard. So my mom always put herself last.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to put myself last for a very long time. And it wasn't until I had a daughter. So my daughter is 3.5. So I would say in the last 3.5 years. But I remember looking at her and thinking, if I don't lead by example, if I don't show you how to do this, you will never learn, and you'll just be burning the candle at both ends like my mom and I did. So sometimes it takes me looking at her and going, if I don't go get my pedicure, if I don't go get a massage, if I don't go spend the day at the Korean spa, which is one of my favorite places, you literally take your shoes off and you're naked almost the whole time. But it literally, like, quiet, serene. I can just, when I take my shoes off, I take off all my problems and I leave them in the shoe box and they go in. But if I don't do those things, she'll never learn. So sometimes the motivation isn't self-motivated. It's because I know I have to lead by example. And I do lead by example in a lot of ways in my business. But most importantly, it's got to be for my kids too. They got to learn by example.
Yeah. How do you keep that balance between business and family, between professional and personal?
It's hard. I'll just be honest. I'll be totally transparent. My office is in the downstairs. My kids run around upstairs. I can hear them, especially with it being summer. And my heart cries to, like, go up there and be with them. And then I realize, okay, if I do that, what am I sacrificing on the other side? Right? So there has to be this balance. And this just recently happened. And this is probably the most courageous thing I've ever had to ask for. So my husband went to school to be a massage therapist. I've supported him kind of in the last 5 years finding himself. He was a veteran for 17 years in the US Navy. And he didn't know who he was after that because he's been told what to do since he was 18 years old. So to figure out what was after that was really difficult. And like, some of us got to go to college and figure it out and play around and whatever, but he didn't get that. So I wanted him to have that experience. In that, he found massage, he finished school and got a job. And at first he was going to be his own business, and he really struggled with it because being an entrepreneur is hard. You got to market yourself. Like, most of your time is marketing and sales. And he was like, well, why aren't these people just coming to me? I have a service. And I was like, oh. And I was like, remember when I struggled in my business when I first got started? Now roles are reversed. Now you understand how hard it can be, you know? And that was really fun. But we've been doing that for about 6 months, and school was ending. And my 3.5-year-old goes to pre-K from like 9 to noon. So from 9 to noon, I had time to get stuff done. Then the rest of the day, I had to be mom. And I was not pulling it together right. And it was overwhelming, and I would be trying to take phone calls while she's running around, and I was really trying to balance it. And I did for 6 months. And now that I have a big event coming up in September with 300 people in attendance and all these responsibilities, I almost had a breakdown. And I had to sit down with my husband and I said, I can't do this. I can't do it the way it's happening right now. I have so many commitments that financially could put us, in a bad place if I don't fulfill on them. So I really need you to quit your job. Now, that wasn't the funnest conversation to have. And nowhere in my life have I ever said, I deserve for you to be with the kids, and I deserve to work. And so this whole thing in my own ego, I was playing around with, trying to figure out, is it what was best for all of us. And he was miserable in his job. He was coming home after doing 8 massages a day, making $21 an hour, which isn't what you could make at doing your own stuff. He was just exhausted, and he complained about it. So I feel like when I asked him, it took him a few minutes, but then he realized that I was granting him permission to quit. And it shifted everything, because now 2 weeks later, I have really, truly been getting so much more done and getting big partnerships and sponsorships, and things are really flowing because I have time to sit down and actually do it, instead of some half-ass email they send off my phone while my daughter needs her mac and cheese made, right? Mm-hmm. So it is kind of, there's no balance. Sometimes it's going to be on off center. I've had a conversation with my entire family between now and September. There's going to be a lot of times I'm gone. And I'm doing a speaking tour in California. So I'm like, this is what I need for the next couple of months. After that, we're going to go to Florida. We're going to go do Disney World and the Dolphin Research Center. We're going to do all these fun things. But in the next couple of months, Mommy might be a little stressed out. She's got a lot of work on her plate, and she's got to get a lot done. So just know that those things are going to happen. And so their experience is different, because they're not resentful for it. They know what I'm working towards. And I'm not just working towards my event. I'm working towards what we can do after the event, right? And so I think just being really open and honest with your kids, one's 11, one's 3. The 3-year-old probably doesn't understand. But I think it's still that leading by example, asking for what you need, asking for support, and getting everyone on the same page and enrolled in the big goal. And I really do, though, when I walk out of my door to go upstairs, I take my CEO hat off, because my CEO hat, I am dominant. I am, assertive. I just am a different person in the sense of the way my energy shows up, right? I'm the same person on stage with my kids, with that. But when I go upstairs, an alpha husband and an alpha wife, that's not very hot. Let's just say. And when I go up there, my kids don't want another alpha. They want the nurturing, loving mom that supports them and cuddles them and cooks for them and that kind of thing. So then I put the mom hat on, and I literally have to shift my energy, because I used to not. And it would end up in fights and arguments, and just I would come in there like a bull in a china shop, just doing my thing with my big old energy. That doesn't fly in the house, right? So it's this different thing. And I think people need to, if you can compartmentalize it as a hat, like I'm going to make hats that just say CEO and mom, or CEO and dad, so that people can literally, okay, I got to make sales calls. CEO hat time, go. Right? Because that's not the same energy you would bring to your kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is something I realized about, we'll just talk about in the domain of romantic relationships and your partnership. I think it expands to all relationships, is this idea of balancing your energies. And this is where I feel I got dating wrong for ages, is I didn't understand this notion of balancing your energies. So if I look at if I was to give myself a balance of masculine and feminine, hugely loaded terms, but we'll work with them for the sake of argument, I would say I'm 70% masculine, 30% feminine, or 65-35. So I'm quite masculine, but I've got a strong feminine aspect to me. And when I was dating, I would date girls who were too feminine. They were maybe 90% feminine, 10% masculine. So the problem was you had too much feminine energy in the relationship, which creates this kind of flat passiveness. With my current partner, who I'm marrying in a couple of months, she is 70% feminine, but like 30% masculine, which is the opposite of where I am. It's the yin and the yang. So she gives me a little bit of a masculine punch to complement a bit of my feminine energy, but she's still got that feminine energy that matches kind of my majority of masculine energy. So I think finding that balance is really important. As you said, when you've got two alphas who are there, it's too much masculine energy, it's too much conflict, it's too much aggression. You need that feminine energy to come in with that passiveness and that calmness to create the yin and the yang in the relationship.
Yeah, because nobody wants to be nurtured by a masculine alpha. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. But you know, the thing is, like, I also think I have always played well with boys and girls. Like I play in an all men's softball league. I am the only woman that plays in a men's softball league. And I get along with them and they'll talk about masculine things and they just treat me like I'm another guy. And it's really great and it's fine. And I love that. And then one day they were all doing some drama things and they were like kind of like fighting. And I was like laughing because I was like, hey guys, I joined the men's league so that I could leave the drama at home. Can you guys like I'm the only one here that should be causing drama and I'm all like, get over it. And they were like, oh my God, that was the best thing you could have ever said because it just shook us like, duh, you know? And so I think there is that thing about, you know, I love to teach my daughter to do some things that are more masculine too. Like play with trucks and trains and learn how to build a fire and let's go camping. And then I teach my son things about being nurturing and loving and having feelings and being okay with it. So I think it's this play back and forth, like you said, with your own energy, as well as helping others facilitate that in their own lives too.
Mm-hmm. You also mentioned in that story how your mother had always put herself last and you adopted that. Now, when you're having this conversation with your husband, telling him to quit his job and allow you to put your work priorities on top, that sounds very not like putting yourself last and having to take that position of being assertive and confident and even dominant to a certain degree. When do you think that shift happened for you where you stopped putting yourself last all the time and developed that assertiveness and that confidence to start asking for what you wanted and you needed more?
I'll be honest, I don't think I've got it mastered. In any day, my husband will like, go to the Korean spa, go get your nails done, go get your hair done. I'm like, but then I have to sit there for an hour. I have so many other better things to do. He's like, yeah, but when you come back, you always feel better about yourself and all these things. And I'm like, you're right. And then I do it and I'm like, oh yeah, you were right. I think out of true desperation of the heavy responsibility of filling an event with 300 people, having contracts signed that I will have 300 people in the room, and having that financial responsibility of over $20,000 for an event. Like those are some heavy duty things. And then when I think about the people in the audience, which I say the souls in seats, right? And I think about my commitment to serving them and helping them serve at a higher level, there's no excuses, you know, like I can't not ask because I'm maxed out. It's not going to work if I continue to do this. And I'm just going to either die, kill over from like all the stress and anxiety and all this stuff, or I can ask for help. And I'm still like, it still feels weird that I asked him to quit his job. Like I'm still trying to like put that in a box that doesn't fit inside the compartments of my brain. But when I did, I realized I have a true partner, because a true partner, you know, I supported him while he was in the military and he was deployed a lot. So I was a single mom at home with our child. And then he came home and then I have allowed him to figure out what he wants to do. And before that, he was working a stable job so I could launch my business. So I think when you find a true partner and you know that you're in it for life, you can be able to ask those things. And so I don't necessarily think it expands outside of that. Like sometimes it does, and I'll go and ask for anything because all people can say is no, right? But that confidence I have. But when it comes to something hard like that, that's not the easiest question to ask somebody you love. And this is their dream too. And I'm like, I want to help you build it too, you know, but right now I need to step back. And so something's got to shift and change. And to be honest, I make more money than he does. And so it really comes down to like pros and cons of looking it out and figuring out what makes sense as a team. And we, I have to say, I didn't marry someone we had this strong, like, you're going to be the mom and the wife and you're going to clean the house and these strong masculine and feminine roles. We both, because we know how to flow back and forth and go, you know what? He loves playing with the kids. He loves hanging out and being the best dad. So why can't we have, the not normal kind of roles and be able to bounce those back and forth? And so I think truly, yes, having the confidence that I know that no matter what, I will make a decision and I will make it right and I will figure it out along the way. But also just knowing that if you have a true partner, that there's no harm in asking and really asking from the place, like I said, I don't know if I can survive this if I don't have time to work on this, and the stress and that anxiety that comes up with it. And he doesn't want that for me either, and in our family. So I think that it just comes to the part where making sure you have a true partner that understands that you're going to have needs too, and to ask for them to be met.
Mhm. So we've been talking there about romantic love and love in a romantic relationship. We've also talked about contributing to people and serving people to a higher level. And I think if we start to expand these themes a little bit wider, I think the world could use a whole lot more of this. It could use more love and understanding between people. It could use a lot more service and contribution. Erin, how do you think we can bring more love, not just into our personal relationships, but into the whole world?
Sharing your story. I think that if we go back eons of time, you look at hieroglyphics, right? Like, look back. We have told stories, right? And I know you get this more than anyone. But hey, don't eat the red berries. Mary ate the red berries and died, right? We learned from people's stories. And nowadays, we're like so afraid and so in shame, and we're hiding our stories because we don't want anyone to think we don't have it all together, that there's difficult conversations, there's difficult situations happening, things are out of whack, out of balance, whatever that is. We just want it to look pretend and perfect from the outside. And the thing is, the power is in the stories, and the power is in, it's not always easy. Like the things I've talked about you today, this wasn't easy, and there are those things that if I don't share that, somebody like you have the cure to cancer. Let's just say your story is the cure to someone else's ailment, someone else's cancer. If you really truly have the cure to cancer, would you keep it to yourself or would you share it? So why do we think that our stories that have the solutions to people's problems and like even a different perspective on what they're going through, that we wouldn't share it? But because we've been so shamed and judged and ridiculed and all these things that we're afraid of, is we're hiding it and holding it back. But I really think the true form of love is to share openly and honestly what you've gone through. Now, there's a caveat to that, because if you're in it, you better be careful who you share it with. So let's just say my dog died today. I'll knock on wood, that's not happening, but my dog died. I wouldn't go on stage today and be like, oh my God, my dog died. Because that it's literally doing the room a disservice, and it's selfish. You're taking people to the depths and the icky, deep, dark parts, and you're triggering theirs. And then you're like, but I don't know the solution, so I'm out. Peace out. And you like walk out of the room. Everyone's like, they felt so concerned for you. They're worried about you. They have all these emotions, and now they're in their own stuff, feeling all their own stuff about loss and pets and whatever. And you're just like, okay, I'm done. So you have to heal that story and heal what happened to find the light at the end of the tunnel and the solutions that help you got to the light of the tunnel, the top of the mountain, whatever that is. But you have to know the route out so you can take the audience in and get in there and get their emotions kicked up. And then you can say, and now let's take you to the top of the mountain. I know the route to the top of the mountain. I've been there, and I am the guide that can help you get there. And so I'm the solution to your problem. And I think so many times people are just so afraid that they don't. And so they don't take a strong stand for one another. They don't say, you know what, David, I know I can help you in public speaking. I know I can help you in your business. I know I can help you grow your big events. If I didn't say that to you, that's just, oh, okay, whatever. Good job, good luck. Don't want to share any of my icky, hard stuff, where I failed, what I've learned from, doing these big events, because I've lost a whole bunch of money and I've done some things that I've had to learn through. But it's doing you a disservice, and it's doing the world a disservice if I don't share that openly and help you from my place of, I've been there, done that.
Mm-hmm. So, Erin, I'd like to start rounding up everything that we've been discussing so far, these big themes and big ideas. And I've got a few final questions in which to do so. And just because these are the last few questions, don't feel your answers need to be short and succinct. You've been given wonderful flowing answers so far. So please do if that is the answer that is right for the question that's asked. And the first of these questions is, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful for an amazing, loving family that I get to spend time with every day.
So thinking of family, you were speaking about your kids earlier on, and I think kids are the leaders of tomorrow. They're the next generation, and we're in 2019 now. 2019. Next year is 2020. We're 2 decades into the 21st century, and for some of the children, your children, 11 and 3 children who are being born round about now, they're really going to inherit this century. Children born now are probably going to see 2100. They're going to see the end of the century and everything that happens in the next 80 years or so. And I think this is such an important century on so many different fronts of things where we need to evolve and grow and progress. Erin, I'd like you to imagine that you've got a young child before you, no older than 5 years old, and you have to say something to them that's going to prepare them for this century to come, prepare them for all the responsibilities and obligations and duties they're going to find themselves in. What would you be saying to that child?
Follow your heart. Listen to the little voice, your intuition, whatever you want to call it, your gut instinct. Listen to it. Find the people who will light you up and support you and love you no matter what, and really embrace them the most. And know that the world is crying out for more of that. And that anytime you see an injustice, you see people fighting and arguing or angry or mad, it's because they need more love. So if you can send them love and light and help them in their way, that really could shift the world. And really think about, what is it you want to leave the planet knowing? What is it that one, like we said, what is the one story you want to say to the world? What's your one message? If you have one of those, or as you're building them along the way, really truly define that, master it, and share it with the world, so that you know you left with no regrets, nothing to hold back, and that you really did make a change and leave an impression in the world.
Mm-hmm. So moving from the start of life to the end of life, and we've talked a lot over our 2 interviews about death, about thinking about your life and what you want to do and what you want your life to be. Erin, one day, sadly, it will be your last day, hopefully many years into the future, and you're going to have a life to look back on. And when you look back on that life, what legacy do you want to have left?
I will help more people step into their true power, their true love for the world and the planet, and really share it from a genuine and authentic place that is unique to them. Because you and I could go through the same thing and have a different perspective. And so the world is crying out for you to share that unique part of you. And so just honor that unique perspective that you have. And I think that it's kind of creating the Me Too movement, but in a positive way, that when you share your story, you're actually granting permission for the world to say, me too, and to not feel alone. When you can do that, you're never alone, and they will finally feel seen and heard and acknowledged for who they are. And I think that's important.
So, Erin, for folks who've been listening and they've enjoyed what you've had to share, some of your thoughts, some of your perspective, and they want to find out more about who you are and what you do, where would you be directing people to go?
Sure. So my website is erinlomanjeck.com, and you can find resources there. You can find my podcast, so you'll get to hear the other version of this podcast if you like, because David's on mine, the Transformational Speakers Podcast. I also have an upcoming big event, like I talked about. It's called the Transformational Speakers Summit. It's in Palm Springs, September 19th through the 21st. It's packed with amazing speakers. You're gonna learn how to craft your message, tell your story, and get it out there and make money doing it. So it's a perfect place. Plus, spending that much time with 300 other thought leaders and people who might be telling different stories and they're sharing the world in a different way. But how amazing is it to all come together and to do it together, right? And so that's what I love about my event. We have some major breakthrough stuff, but also the community that you get to build there. You build partnerships and lifetime friendships and people that can really move the needle for you. It's really important. So that's the transformationalspeakersummit.com. And like literally you'll find everything you want on my website. So you can just go to erinlomanjeck.com and find it there.
Well, Erin, I'd just like to thank you for this conversation. I'd like to particularly note your boldness and your energy and vigor that you've brought into a lot of your thoughts and a lot of your words today. I've enjoyed this conversation and thank you for coming on to the Author Your Life podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it hugely if you could head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the podcast. With your review, please be as honest and detailed as you can be. Because with honest and detailed feedback, that helps me to adapt and grow this podcast to most serve you, the listener. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you aren't going to miss any of the future episodes that we've got lined up for you. Until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen, and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. So go out today and write yourself a beautiful story.